Welcome to Lesson 1.3, Why High Performers Feel Pressure More Intensely. If you're someone who's trusted with large-scale responsibility, delivers consistently, and finds yourself at the center of critical decisions, you're likely used to hearing that, quote, you handle pressure well. But what most leadership development programs miss is this. High performers don't experience less pressure. They often experience more. In this session, we're going to unpack why that happens. We'll explore how visibility, responsibility, self-imposed standards, and cognitive load affect high-functioning professionals, and why intensity shows up even more for those who are competent and trusted. Because if you misunderstand the source of your pressure, you're more likely to blame yourself for something that's actually structural and not personal. The first pressure amplifier is responsibility. When you're in a leadership role, you're not just doing your job. You're making decisions that affect people, clients, outcomes, and systems. The brain tracks responsibility as a risk. Every decision you make has consequences. And even if you're highly confident, your nervous system still feels the weight of accountability. That creates a steady undercurrent of stress that doesn't go away when the project ends. So while others might only feel pressure in a crisis, high performers often live in low-grade pressure loops, even during normal operations. The second amplifier is visibility. When your work is seen, evaluated, or challenged in front of others, especially in high-stakes meetings or executive reviews, your stress responses intensify. That's because your brain treats social evaluation as a form of threat detection. Neurosciences show that social rejection or criticism lights up in the same way in the brain as physical injury. So even if you're composed on the surface, your internal system is managing a kind of emotional armor under high visibility. That's real, it's measurable, and it takes energy. The third pressure source is self-generated, and this one is critical. High performers often carry perfectionist tendencies, not in the everything must be flawless sense, but in the internal expectation that I should do all I can. I can't afford to fail. I should already know this. I'm responsible for the outcome even when others drop the ball. These internal scripts operate in the background. They're rarely challenged, but they drive elevated stress, especially in uncertainty or ambiguity. This is where many high performers mistake their emotional overload as a sign of weakness, when it's actually a result of unspoken, self-enforced rules. There's also a paradox at play here. The better you are at handling pressure, the more of it you're given. You've likely noticed this. The more you perform, the more responsibility you inherit, often without additional support or capacity planning. This creates a hidden bias in organizations, the belief that you've got this just because you appear composed. But behind the scenes, what's really happening is load stacking. You're carrying more complexity, more decisions, and more emotional labor than most people even realize. So let's make this real. Imagine a senior manager responsible for 3 cross-functioning teams, each with competing KPIs. On any given day, she's dealing with a product delay, a staffing issue, an upcoming board review, a client call that could affect retention. On paper, she looks super calm. She's responsive, solution-focused, always shows up prepared. But inside, she's maxing out. The pressure she's internalized, it's not just visible to others. And that invisibility makes it more dangerous because no one knows to offer her support. Here's a hidden pattern in high performers. You don't wait for the environment to change. You adapt to the strain. You build systems, you get faster, you rely on your own problem-solving ability. But eventually, that adaptation hits diminishing returns. You're no longer optimizing, you're compensating. That means you're burning through energy to maintain performance, and often it's invisible until your health, clarity, or team dynamics start to degrade. So let's be clear, this isn't burnout, but it's a pathway to it. Burnout usually doesn't come from one bad week or a terrible quarter. It comes from the accumulation of unprocessed stress, overtime, undervisibility, and high stakes with limited recovery. The goal of this course isn't just to help you cope, it's to help you recognize early load signs and install systems to stay in your high performance zone without degrading your long-term capability. And take a moment. Ask yourself, where are you carrying stress that others often don't see? What part of your performance is being fueled by strain, not sustainability? And where have you adapted to pressure so well that others assume you're fine, even though you're not? Identifying these blind spots is not weakness, it's a foundation of sustainable leadership. In the next lesson, we're going to map your personal pressure profile, how stress uniquely shows up in your behavior, your body, and your leadership decisions. Because once you can name it, you can predict and regulate it. I'll see you in lesson 1.4.